With the 18th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jaelen Phillips, defensive end, Miami.
Are going from the U to the Dolphins, Jaelen Phillips, a remarkable backstory.
Man, words can't even describe how I feel right now. I mean, it's literally like an out-of-body experience. But, I'm just so grateful for Miami as a city. They embraced me when I came into the U, and they've supported me for the last 2 years of my journey. And so there's no place I'd rather be, man. Back to 305. This is crazy, man. I think that I handled it well when things were going well. But once, I started getting hurt my freshman year, started having some adversity that I really hadn't had before, I didn't really know how to address it. I didn't really know how to explain it to myself. And so I think for a long time, I kind of played that victim role where it's like you don't want to take responsibility of what you're doing and realizing you can be doing things different. And so I kind of let that spiral and, was just in a real bad headspace for, about a year and a half. I got hit by a car on my moped, had 3 surgeries, 3 bones removed out of my wrist, 2 concussions while I was at UCLA. So, I was having a lot of adversity. I was blessed to have the opportunity to basically have a second chance at life at the University of Miami. And I just told myself, man, I'll be remiss to have the second chance at life and let it slip again.
As a fan of football, we see players come, we see players go, and they go in droves. But every once in a while, you get a player that's an unbelievable kid and unbelievable on game day. And it makes being a fan as fun as it can be. And Jaelen Phillips is that kid. The 2022 season, the sack total doesn't look great, and some people aren't totally hyped on what this kid did and will do. But I'm here to show you week by week how this kid's curve of growth was parabolic and how he dominated games, especially critical games, with pressures and hurries and hits and sacks. And as we all know, holds that were not called by refs.
What I realized is that I had to manage my level of expectations. And ultimately, I just wanted to be proud of myself with the work that I was putting in. And, what I did on the field, it's like I can't control a lot of things. I can't control how people are going to feel about my performance. I can't control a lot of the time how the coaches are going to feel about what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, I can lay my head down at night and be confident in myself as a man that, I'm doing everything I can.
Jaelen Phillips opened his 2022 season against the Pats with a very quiet 0 pressures, but it was about the process, and soon things were going to heat up. All right, Phillips started gaining momentum in week 2 against the Ravens, started using more physicality, was getting closer to the quarterback, had a couple of plays where he was, just inches away. You can see on this one, he gets a little bit tackled here, pushed down, absorbing 2 blockers on this one. And then, of course, you start seeing the trend of the holds, and you'll see a clear one on this where he gets yoked right in front of the ref, and doesn't seem like the ref happens to see it, which is pretty hard to believe. I don't think it gets more clear than that. Week 3 was a big game against the Bills, and Phillips popped with 5 pressures and 1 batted pass. He started putting the pressure inside, lining up at the 3 technique, and then lining up outside with the twists. He started attacking inside and outside. He was getting closer and closer to the quarterback.
I think when it comes to setting goals, you have to be process-oriented and not result-oriented, because you're not always going to get the results that you want, even if you're putting in the process.
Right.
And so you have to start falling in love with the growth and falling in love with failing, falling in love with overcoming that, and having that be your driving force.
Phillips had another big week in week 4 against Cincinnati with 5 pressures, but on film, it was way more dominating than that. You see the hold here. Phillips was relentless with his hand in the ground. On the outside, he kept attacking the interior of the offensive line of the Bengals, and they couldn't stop him. Poor rookie left guard Cordell Volson must have had fits and nightmares thinking about Phillips, what he did to him. That just over and over again, at every turn, he was just attacking the interior and getting on top of Burrow, who just had to hear his footsteps all day. So the jab step here, and then the shoot inside and the rip and dip. I mean, it was so dominant. I almost felt bad for Volson. And this was really where Phillips started to dominate, started to string it all together, the physicality, the relentlessness, stringing multiple moves together. and then the speed and the length. I love this one. Puts the foot in the ground, comes across almost a gap and a half, and gets there to mess with Burrow and to get the ball thrown for an incompletion. This was a special day for the kid. Week 5 against the Jets was one of those 2 steps forward and 1 step back with 0 pressures. He gave everything he got, but the Jets kind of dialed in on him with double blocks, and also they ran the ball a lot. And he just really did everything he could, but it just didn't work out in the stat line. Phillips, again, after a slow game, bounced back with a very strong game with 6 pressures and a sack on Cousins, making his life a living hell. He brought a different kind of physicality this game. Not only used his speed and acceleration to get inside in that A-gap, but he just brought a brutality we hadn't really seen before. He gets past Jefferson, and look what he does to that tight end. Lights him up like a Christmas tree. Knocked him into tomorrow. Knock him into tomorrow, Rock. It was just, this is my favorite blitz of his all season. Just uses agility and then just delivers the wood and destroys the tight end and gets in on the sack here. It was a beautiful play, but this is the kind of energy and desire that Phillips started showing with a real reckless abandon from this point on. And then there's a celebration. Again, more physicality, this time with a tackle. He's not just a little guys. He started using his leverage and speed to play the physical game, to give a two-way go inside and out, and that really is a big deal for tackles or blockers to see on tape. Again, the stab inside and the come down the line, the old tried and true, and a little pull there. You can see the hold on that one, the quick hold on that one. And then from the outside, again, using his speed and the cutback and then the acceleration to mess this play up and cause an incompletion. Beautiful game by Phillips. After an excellent game against the Vikings, Phillips follows it up with his best statistical game of the year with 7 pressures and 2 sacks. On this play, you'll see he unveils his new move, the spin move he's been working on. He drives inside, rolls off like a flash, chases down the quarterback, cuts off those extra yards. There's just one more arrow in his quiver. Kid's got a full quiver, let me tell you that. Now, this one's beautiful. He uses speed and strength to double tap at the feet to get the quarterback guessing and rocking, and then use those long arms and the power to drive him off and clean it up. Look at that. The double tap freezes him, and then uses the strength and the drive, put the tackle on his heels, and then finish it off. Excellent play. Another one, the speed. Inside, outside, swipe. 2 guys on him, and he's about a step and a half away from getting his hand on it. It's so impressive what he's doing here. The swat, the sweep, and he's about another step and a half away from a pressure. These are quick throws, so that's not easy. Now on this one, the outside, inside, and splits the guard tackle. This gives nightmares to offensive linemen. Look at that. And he's almost there. And these are very, very quick throws. Super impressive. Again, the outside drives him off, collapses the pocket, using power, not just speed. Again, splits the double, almost gets the sack. That is unbelievable explosion, speed, agility. To stab and an inside, and he's so quick the guard can't even react. That was inches away from a sack. Another one, this is just his hustle, his relentless nature to catch the quarterback from behind. Beautiful game. Week 8 versus Detroit had Phillips with his 3rd straight excellent game with 7 pressures on the day. What made this game even more extraordinary for Phillips was he was going against the Lions' top 5 offensive line with Sewell and Decker on the outside, but inside, outside, left and right, Goff felt Phillips' presence all day. On this one, Decker just can't drive him out the horn, and Phillips is able to hold the arc tight, almost get the sack. It's very impressive. Again on this one, Decker guessing, doesn't know what he's going to do, gets stiff-legged, gets the dip, and Phillips is just inches away from knocking a ball out of the quarterback's hand. On this one, he's going against Decker again, and now instead of using the speed, just uses the power and drives Decker back, and has to be held or it would have been another sack. This is such a clear hold, another hold the refs just don't seem to see. Ultra impressive, though, by Phillips. On this one, he's going against Sewell, big boy, top draft pick, and just gets dominated, and he cleans the clock of Goff. Sewell is a darn good player, and for Phillips to be able to switch it up, use the foot movement, the speed, and then this to drive it off, it must strike terror in tackles. Comes back, he's going against Decker again. Decker's just jumping out there, and look, inside, outside, the swim and the rip, and he's holding it tight, and he gets his hands. That's a hit. And he caused the ball to get an incompletion. Big part of that right there. Oh, inside and outside, and Decker is just toe tapping. He's flat-footed. He doesn't know what to do. He's out of sorts, and Phillips just utterly dominated him on that rep. Week 9 had the arrival of Chubb, and Phillips had a 5-pressure day, but he was a little befuddled by Fields. But this block punt was a game changer. This was a close game and a must-win, and Phillips had the biggest play on the day with this block punt. And I love the celebration it did, him running off. Shows his energy. Look at the Steelers always celebrating with him. Again, on the outside, there's a play action. But notice the physicality. He's got the tackle on the move, big guy. Last year, he might have played a little shy, but just watch, and that leads to the interception. But watch this. He gets the hands in there, fights off. He gets the hold, the game hold. He gets one hold a game that doesn't get called, but this time it got called. Just love the physicality, driving in there, holding his ground and fighting off. And look what this guy's got to do. I mean, this is like 5 holds in one. Beautiful play by Phillips. Again on the outside, his stunt outside and inside, and this is another big play that's not really noticed. This is another play that could have turned the game around. Look, gets the hands in the face, and that tight end was running down the streak open, and the ball just drops wide because of Phillips. Week 10 against a tough Browns offensive line that ranks top 5 in the league. Phillips failed to generate the type of pressure he had over the last few weeks. But the 3 pressures on his day did include 1 sack that upped his total by 1, as you can see him getting Brissett right here. Still, the Dolphins being on the field all day and putting up tons of points, the Browns running in the second half, and an excellent offensive line that matched his talent for talent slowed Phillips down quite a bit. Week 12 against the Texans had Phillips coming off the bye, and he had one of his better games with 5 pressures, 4 hurries, and 1 sack that you see here. He used the drive and the spin that he had been perfecting through the mid-part of the season to get the sack. Although Phillips did bring pressure throughout the game, it wasn't a truly dominating performance that you saw in the mid-part of the season or you'll see later on in the season and towards the playoffs. Week 13 against the San Francisco 49ers, Phillips was slowed by an excellent offensive line and an offense that was balanced and liked to run the football. But Phillips had effect. He knocked out Jimmy G, as you just saw, and he had 3 pressures on the day. But of those 3 pressures, 2 were hits and 1 was a sack. So Phillips wasn't as effective as far as volume and pressures, but he did have impact, as you can see here, causing Purdy to misfire. Phillips had one of his most dominating performances week 14 versus the Chargers. He eviscerated the edges of the Chargers' offensive line, spooked Herbert off of the spot, and was in hot pursuit of the quarterback all day. His stellar performance had him amass 7 pressures, 2 of which were sacks. Unfortunately, one of those sacks was removed because of a totally ridiculous roughing the quarterback penalty. Still, Phillips' performance was top-notch, and he was a threat to security of Herbert all day long. This was his first sack, which was pretty much a gimme, but the second one was one of elite talent. He had worked on that spin move throughout the season, and it was bringing bigger and bigger dividends. Pressuring the outside of the tackle, avoiding the chip, he spins back inside and picked up a beautiful, bone-crushing sack. Unfortunately, there was that stupid penalty to negate it. Week 15 had Phillips posting back-to-back excellent games. Phillips recorded 5 pressures and 1 sack on the day. And the 1 sack came late in the game and was a strip sack, which the Dolphins recovered midfield, putting them in position to win the game. Inside or outside, it didn't matter. Phillips dominated the Bills' offensive line. It was only Allen's mobility and excellent strength that had him avoiding multiple sacks from Phillips on the day. Phillips' relentless pass rusher made life a living hell for Allen. And really, he was a major factor in creating what almost was a major upset. It was this huge play at the end of the game where he managed to just destroy Brown, slip behind Allen, and strip the ball out from him that put the Dolphins in position for one of the biggest upsets of the season. Shows that Phillips is a big-time player who plays big in big games. Week 16 versus the Packers was a slow week for Phillips with only 2 pressures. Rodgers' short game, mobility, and a good offensive line slowed him down. But you can see here, if you can't beat him, hold him right in front of the ref, played out, and stripped away a sack possibly from Phillips. Week 17 saw Phillips' struggles against New England continue with only 1 pressure on the day. He was in the vicinity a few times, but ultimately he was negated. One excellent play is where he destroyed Cole Strange by mushing him in the face and almost sacking Mac Jones. Still, it was a slow day for Phillips. Week 18 saw the Miami Dolphins versus the New York Jets in a do-or-die game to make the playoffs. After 2 cool performances, Phillips turned up the heat and was relentless. Generating 7 pressures and 4 hits, he destroyed the Jets' offensive line and harassed and harried Flacco all day. He showed the full repertoire, lining up inside with twists or outside with the speed rush, the rip and burn. Phillips affected the ability of the Jets to pass the football and help the Dolphins earn the W. But it was at the end of the game and the Jets' final drive for the go-ahead win that Phillips was felt the most. You can see here he even gets one of his holds in front of the ref that doesn't get the call just to end out the regular season. But Phillips wasn't done. This was just a setup for his biggest performance and the biggest stage in the playoff game the following week against the Bills. Phillips' wildcard game versus the Bills was one of complete dominance. 7 pressures and 1 sack and about 4 or 5 holds just not called right in front. There's a tackle right there. Ref's looking at it, smiling. His flag must be crazy glued to his pocket, but that was another one here. Look at his body getting torqued. Ref does not see it. No flags called. But Allen, he was on the run because Phillips just was purely relentless. Almost got the sack there. And here's another hole. Look at this one. 1, 2, tears him down. Still gets there to mess up Allen, but no call. I just don't understand these NFL refs sometimes. Terrible. But Phillips still very, very productive day. It would have been amazing to see what his day would have been like if there had actually been some refs on the field, because he was all over the place, penetrating outside, destroying tackle and tight end. There's another hole right here. Ref just don't care. Unbelievable day by the kid. Showed he is a big-time player in big-time games. Clearly, the kid's production on film, what he did on game day, is not commensurate with his sack total. And this is why I say he was a half a step away from greatness in 22. And with the additions of Fangio and the surrounding talent and the continued development, this kid will hit greatness on film and statistically in 2023. But the reason Phillips is now my favorite Miami Dolphin, and that's even above my man Theron, is because of who he is as a person, his intelligence, his humility, his desire to serve the public, and his overcoming of extremely difficult challenges. So this last portion, this last little video montage of Phillips is really the core of my love of this kid.
Take his off day and go visit juvenile detention areas, go to the Lotus House. Anytime you call him, you got some kind of charitable mission, he's there. The fact that he's putting other people first, the fact that on Sunday he gives you everything he's got. In practice, he gives you everything he's got. In the classroom, he gives you everything he's got. But he still makes time to be a part of the community.
It started with my parents. My parents are huge into philanthropy. With our church, we would go down twice a year when I was a kid and go build houses in Mexico. And, I've always seen my mom helping out with shelters and just everything she does, whether it's tithe, whether it's everything, it's giving. It's the giving spirit. And the fulfillment that I get from giving is everything. It's more than anything else I can do for myself. At the end of the day, the NFL and the platform that we have, I wouldn't be happy with just, utilizing the success and taking advantage of everything and then not doing anything to give back to the community that really supported me. And so my goal with everything that I'm doing is to live a fulfilling life and feeding my soul, not just feeding my ego.
Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.